of the hour, and historic day on Capitol Hill last night. The House voted to impeach Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. This is the first time a sitting cabinet member has been impeached. First time a cabinet member has been impeached in 148 years. 2 articles were approved. One accused him of refusing to comply with federal immigration law. Another accusing him of violating public trust. President Biden slammed the impeachment yesterday, saying that history will not look kindly on House Republicans for their blatant act of unconstitutional partisanship that has targeted an honorable public servant in order to play petty political games, according to President Biden. Here's Mayorkas being asked just last week if he would resign if impeached. Watch.
No, I would not.
Tiana Loeser, your response, your thoughts here.
This might be an unprecedented decision, but that's because this is an unprecedented moment with an unprecedented cabinet official, right? So Alexander Hamilton was very clear in the Federalist Papers about when impeachment is valid, and core at that is refusing to enforce the law as an executive as passed by Congress, right? This is one of the only methods that Congress has of oversight of the executive branch that it has deliberately ceded much of its power to. The issue isn't that Mayorkas has just implemented awful policy, right? Overturning Remain in Mexico, awful. Overturning those safe third country deals that President Trump passed, awful. The real issue is that he has refused to enforce the law as written. And so even if, he refuses to resign, even if the Senate refuses this very easy goal of making it look like, oh, it's an election year, Joe Biden's taking this seriously, he's not going to save Mayorkas, even if it doesn't do anything, even if Mayorkas is replaced by someone that passes President Biden's insane policy, the point is that something must be done when a cabinet official is not enforcing the law as Congress has written it.
Yeah, I mean, the issue here now is Lee Carter, it doesn't seem likely that anything happens to Mayorkas despite this dereliction of duty because it dies in the Senate likely.
I think that's likely what's going to happen, except the American people, I think, know that the most important issue to Americans right now has become immigration. Across the country, it's not just in border states. 35% of Americans say that's the #1 issue to them. And I think what the American people are saying is we're not going to take it anymore. When you see something like this, Joe Biden, I think, is making a miscalculation to say that the Republicans are going to be judged unkindly. I think he's going to be judged unkindly for the way that he has handled immigration, and Mayorkas has as well. It's a big crisis. And it's just and it's spread to be felt all over the country, not just in those border states.
Yeah, and that was a blatant lie last week, Cheryl, when Biden came out and said, well, now everyone knows that the border is open because of Trump. I mean, are you serious? Do you really think we're that moronic?
I'm sorry. Let's go to the Bill Melugin tweet where he tells us in fiscal year 2024, 20,000 Chinese nationals crossed the U.S. southern border. Fiscal year 21, it was 450. Okay, the gates are open, right? And look, one of the things that's going to be interesting when this trial gets underway at the end of this month, and Chuck Schumer has said that, is that basically we're going to get more information because even though he's going to have a lawyer appointed by the White House when the impeachment trial starts in the Senate, what's going to be is the fact-finding that's going to go on. You've already heard from Senator Josh Hawley. You've already heard from Senator Mike Lee. We need to know why the border has become what it is today. And is that the fault of Mayorkas? Is that the fault, Maria, of his boss? And that would be President Joe Biden. But again, this is the piece of this that's going to be so fascinating. And to Lee's point, she's the pollster here. It is an election year, so this is going to be very interesting.
No, it's the #1 issue now going into the election. San Diego Border Patrol agents are seeing a flood of Chinese migrants coming through the border. They arrested 269 migrants in just one day. And Lee, here is when you start understanding the national security threats that we are watching. Not only have we seen people on the terrorist watch list get apprehended, but these Chinese nationals are largely military-aged men. And Communist China has been trying to undermine this country now for so many years, beginning with COVID and then the cover-up of COVID. What are they doing? It's like a mini army that they're creating here.
I mean, it's really concerning, I think, to the American people. What are they doing? They're not coming in the legal ways. They're coming in droves. I mean, there's a lot of them. And what are we expecting? So I think the American people are right to be concerned about this. The numbers are really increasing. And And something needs to be done about it. And I think this can't just be politics as usual. This can't be a blame game here. We've got to get something done.
There was, real quick, there was a Daily Mail piece last week that said when those Chinese nationals, if they are rejected for asylum, Beijing won't take them back.
No, they won't.
They won't repatriate them.
And because she knows that people leave his country, right? It's not like they aren't keeping
Unless
tabs.
he's actually directing them.
It's Americans tend to be emotional on the issue. These are not Honduran mothers with little children that are coming over. These are people who have taken planes and caravans through half a dozen countries to get here. And who's paying for it?